Hello, my name is John Payne. I'm the convener of the Gospel Reformation Network, and we are here at the PCA General Assembly in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I'm here with my good friend Ligon Duncan, who also is a council member with the Gospel Reformation Network, and we're here talking about sanctification. And Ligon's been serving as the chancellor of the RTS system here over the past year, and thinking of the typical student that is coming to RTS. Is it legalism that tends to be the greatest struggle, or is it more of an antinomian thing, or do you see a lot of balance?
That's good. It's both and. I mean, I think all of us in the ministry see both of those dynamics at play in the life of people in our congregation, and that is why our preaching and teaching on sanctification cannot be one size fits all. We need to recognize that there are different struggles, different trials, different temptations, different strengths, and different weaknesses in every Christian. It's one of the reasons I love Puritan ministry, because they recognize there's not just one person sitting under their ministry Lord's Day after Lord's Day. There are all kinds of people, and there are all kinds of challenges for those all kinds of people. But I do think we do need to keep our eye on both legalism and antinomianism. Those two things are not the same thing, even though sometimes it's presented as if really antinomianism is just another form of legalism. I understand what people are saying when they say that, but actually, no, there's a reason why our forebears in the faith wanted to keep those things distinct, because they're two different tendencies in the Christian life that actually derive from different impulses. And because you're a pastor and you love your people, you want to speak to those things, not because you want to rain on their parade, but because you want them to grow in Christ. You want to have them have joy in the Christian faith, and so you want to speak to both of those tendencies.
Yes, and a faithful expository ministry will, of course, speak to both of those issues.
That's right.
One reason I asked the question is because the GRN exists to help people to think through sanctification, and there are some who believe that some of the major trends in modern-day evangelicalism, some of the trends, troubling trends even within our own denomination, is not towards a kind of stringent legalism. I've got to have an hour quiet time. I got to have a committed Lord's Day. I'm struggling over how obedient I'm being. There seems to be this tendency towards perhaps worldliness, and we live in an unprecedented age of social media and television and sports and all these things that are pressing in on us. And so what happens is people have, in some of our perspectives, loosened their views on what it means to walk with the Lord. Some are perhaps giving, they're saying that obedience to the Lord is a kind of form of legalism, even if it's not. So could you tell us about that? What's your perspective? Well,
I mean, I do think I went to seminary in the 1980s, and I think that the evangelical flourishing of the 1970s and 80s favored forms of rigorous commitment amongst young people, and so you had the kind of the navigator emphasis on memorizing your topical memory system and having your quiet time.
Share the gospel 10 times.
Share the gospel 10 times. I remember that. I remember coming under conviction because I wasn't doing those things as well as I should have in the context of seminary. I don't think that's so much going on in our culture right now. I think you're reading it right. There's a shift now in the kind of youth culture that exists, and it brings different challenges for the pastor and for the campus minister to address in terms of helping people grow in grace. And I think that's why, as a pastor, you want to kind of keep your finger up there, knowing where the wind is blowing, so that you're not addressing a problem that existed 40 years ago that's actually not the problem that the culture right under your nose is facing right now. And I think that's one of the things you've been trying to say in the Gospel Reformation Network is pay pastoral attention to those trends.
Yes, and as our friend Rick Phillips has once said, we don't want to preach the gospel of Galatians to Corinth.
Right.
And we are in an age, I believe, that more looks like Corinth than anything else, particularly with the undermining of human sexuality and the things that the younger generation seems to be embracing at a very fast rate.
Absolutely right.
We're having a conversation with the Gospel Reformation Network here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Thank you.